Hi, and welcome to Training Insights, Episode 1. Hi, and welcome to Training Insights. My name's Kevin McGowan. In this podcast series with Training Magazine, my goal is to interview a lot of really interesting and knowledgeable people from across the training and professional development worlds. We're going to talk about training, development. We're going to talk about other kind of business processes and improvements, ways to improve yourself. And as well as we'll throw in maybe some lessons on, learning design, things like that as well to keep things interesting. In today's inaugural episode, I'm going out to Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Well, it's a phone call, but it's a beautiful city if you've ever been. And I'm going to be chatting with Karen Chovan. She is a consultant. She runs her own business, and she has recently started doing talks on how to develop an organization that soars, soaring performance in your organization. So we're going to talk with her a little bit today about some insights she's developed over the years over how to get your organization to soar. Not just perform, but soar. So without any further ado, here's my conversation with Karen Chovan out in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
Hi, Karen. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I know you're in Saskatoon. I wanted to tell you, first off, that I absolutely love Saskatoon. Have you lived there a long time?
Yeah, I've been here just about 11 years now, and my husband's from here, so family and all that. It's a good place to be.
Yeah. But it's also the home of you obviously, but Enviro Integration Strategies. And I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about your role as a sustainability change agent. I saw that on your site, and I really thought that was a cool title. Can you tell me a bit about what you do and how you help organizations?
Yeah, so I've worked in the mining industry for about 20 years, and the last 10 years or so I worked within an organization to really integrate sustainability, and that's both the environment and social aspects of project development into the organization. And so I worked with all of the operations of that company and within their corporate environment as well, embedding things into strategic planning and into operations on how to have better environmental performance and how to look more proactively at closure of the properties and all of those sorts of things. So all of that experience gained and decided to go out on my own. And so now I offer that sort of support and services to companies that are interested in that. And I also do training for people who are involved with projects. And so project management, showing them how they can integrate sustainable components into their design, into their planning, and essentially build it right the first time. So it's meeting all of the demands of society and regulations and all of that.
Well, that sounds really cool. It's quite a niche you found for yourself. I mean, I'm interested too because of the project management, and that's something I've done as well. Kind of coaching on project management, but within a specific industry, which is what you're doing as well.
Mm-hmm.
But can you tell me a little bit too about? I know you did a talk recently about soaring performance.
Yeah.
This is what really intrigued me, and I mean, what made me specifically want to get in touch with you. That this sounded really interesting. What does that really mean to you in terms of an organization and soaring performance?
Well, for me, I think soaring performance includes all what they call the triple bottom line, having a good economic return, so your business is economically stable, but also being a good performer in environmental performance and supporting the social aspects as well. So if you have opportunity to bring gains to society or to local communities situated around your developments, then you can bring all of those things forward and have a good balance of the three. So to me, soaring performance means all of those things. My talk specifically didn't focus on all of those aspects in particular, but in general on how to engage your employees and your stakeholders to get to that point, depending on whatever the targets may be.
So in terms of getting to that point, because I mean, how do you determine, I guess, that you have a gap? I guess if you're not, I like the term soaring performance, but maybe you're kind of in that, your organization's maybe a little mature, or is it more that storming or norming phase of development? How do you, when you're in there, how do you recognize that there's a gap that could be fixed, and then how do you fix it?
I guess the first thing you should do is be asking the people who work for you, because everybody goes home with headaches and complaints about this or that, things that aren't working, things they have to do over and over again. They're frustrated with getting approvals for something, for example, or just inefficiencies in general. You can gain a lot of information on where those inefficiencies and gaps are just by asking questions.
And how, once you start, I mean, I'm assuming that if somebody's reaching out, say, for your services or for just, advice on whether it be process management, project management, change management, they've seen they've got a problem. How do you shift the culture? Because it's not always the employees necessarily. There's a management component there too. There has to be will on the part of a management team or a senior management team, however your organization's laid out, to make that change, to invest in that change. Is there kind of a method of persuasion involved? Like how do you set up kind of like a change plan or a training plan for an organization to shift this way? Yeah,
I guess what I would first say is that if I'm being approached, it would be because they have recognized that there's a problem already. So maybe less of an issue to convince that something needs to be done. But if it's, say, for example, they want to test something, a project, for example, wants to test out improvements, and they want to gain approval for the funding for, say, training for that project within their organization. I think the main thing is from the construction types of projects that we've worked on and the lean processes that have been applied, we can clearly show by using some of the tools how much gains there can be. It is dependent, of course, on the success of implementation and that people are actually taking on and applying the tools that we train them on, but there can be tremendous gains in execution strategies. So, for example, often during execution, traditionally when you put together a set of plans for a project, you have a bunch of different disciplines pulling together all of the pieces, the bits and pieces, and they get assembled into a project management plan for execution. And they're somewhat pieced together based on dependencies and things that are identified. But what is missed is the upsets that come during execution when you're in motion and just things are happening and there are, say, conflicts. You have supplies coming late, or you have things coming at the same time as another group that might have needed it, and there's not enough space on the site for handling all of those materials, or you're double handling and triple handling materials and stuff like that. All these things that cause delays and backups during execution. And what the lean tools do is it's an ongoing collaborative mechanism to engage everyone and be addressing those things just prior to the execution of those next steps. And so you remove all of those constraints. And by all working together in that fashion, it removes all of those upsets. I mean, you're still going to have maybe occasionally something like weather or whatever that may occur, but you're going to eliminate a large proportion of those things that you have to, say, create workarounds to get your work.
what do you find generally is the toughest thing? Is it kind of training people on, process or best practice kind of stuff, or does it fall more to the implementation of that, or is there the convincing, or is the actual rollout of something?
I think one of the things that people struggle with is more on the face of being open and honest and not being put at risk of blame on some front. So because you really have to go in with a very open and trusting foundation, and in the projects world where you're often bringing contractors together that don't always work together. You have project teams, different disciplines, project managers. They're all coming from different places. They don't always work together. That can be a tough thing to get into play right away, and so you need to work on that bit. But that is the purpose of using these tools, because it almost, I don't want to say it forces it, but in order for you to use the tool properly, you do need to be talking to each other. And I think it takes a few weeks for people to get used to how open and transparent you need to be, and to have that sort of agreement on the no blame. One of the things I covered in the webinar was on the no blame, and part of what's discussed in High Velocity Edge. They go in with the premise that any upset, any inefficiency is always the result of the process that's being followed.
Right.
So,
it's not a person thing, it's a process thing.
Yeah. So, and that can come down to the process of training. Maybe that person wasn't trained properly, so they won't see something that's wrong, right? So it always goes back to a process rather than a person, and so it eliminates that defensive mechanism and allows people to open up.
That's fascinating, because in any change process. I haven't worked in construction or oil patch or anything like that, like big projects like that. But even in like an office scenario where you're changing a tool, a software tool or a software package, whether it be accounting or authoring tool or something like that. It seems like the same process. The training comes down to, okay, what is the process? What's the goal we want to accomplish? It's not about, how Bob or Joan is doing the job. It's about how is the job supposed to be done. So it's interesting that the human element in fostering that environment, where everybody's really open and just honest, you're ahead of the game, I guess, what I'm trying to say. If you can get to that point, you've got to have an easy road ahead or an easier road ahead.
Yeah, and what I will say is it definitely does apply to any type of project, any type of change, organizational change. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, you do face the same human elements. And, one of the things that I really liked when I was going through my research for this webinar really comes back to the engagement side, and that was out of the book Drive. And, what it showed is the collaboration and the interaction and the ownership that comes from working in this way, and getting people to buy into making improvements to help themselves, to help their processes, get rid of their own headaches, and all of that. It really comes back to that engagement piece. And by putting in these tools, you actually are putting in the tools for increasing engagement, and then you gain those intrinsic motivators that we all need at just a basic human level. So I really thought that was quite intriguing. And, the data that came out of Toyota's engagement scores really, really demonstrates that by using these kinds of tools, it brings those engagement levels way up.
Wow. Well, we're getting kind of out of time, but I wanted to ask you one more question if I could, Karen.
Sure.
You're obviously super knowledgeable, and you're caring about this, you're passionate about this. Why? Why is this kind of your area? What does this mean to you?
I get frustrated when things aren't working well, and I came from a position particularly when I was on the sustainability integration piece. I was more or less an outside stakeholder trying to change other people's processes. And, I really found a lot of struggles with that. And now I've realized if you can engage the people and bring them in and collaborate with them, you get a lot further faster. And it makes your job easier. It makes your enjoyment of your life much better because you don't go home frustrated every day. You actually want to come back to work because you don't have the headaches every day. And I think that everybody should be able to work in that fashion. And, on the flip side of it, if you can gain all of this engagement and buy-in, and you can open people's eyes about the opportunities there, that you don't need the trade-offs for making improvements against, say, the cost of environmental projects and things like that. You can see that they can get all of them without the trade-offs by doing these different methods. It's a gain for everyone, not just you, but the environment gains, society gains, and you're happy with your job. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, everybody wins if everybody's working together and doing it well. Right, so that's a great message. Well, Karen, I'll let you go there, but thank you so much for taking the time today. I really appreciate that. I've learned a lot.
Perfect. Thank you very much. It's a good conversation.
There you go. That was my conversation with Karen Chovan out in Saskatoon. Thanks so much for listening. If you'd like to get in touch with her, you can go to her website. It's envirointegration.com. Thank you so much for listening. This was our first episode. I hope you like it. If you have any comments, suggestions, ideas, or if you yourself would like to be interviewed on the show to discuss anything related to professional development, training, corporate training, drop me a line. It's k.s.mcgowan@gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening again. We'll see you next time.